Last video, I looked like a melted snowflake because I was so tired. And today, my hair is fully wet in this video. I didn't really know what to do with it. I just knew if I kept it out, it would drip onto my white shirt that I want to wear today. So I guess it's just going to drip on the back of it. And I'm just going to have like a half blue shirt because my hair is blue and the dye is still like, it's not like fully bleeding, but it's still like, there's still like some dye residual because I only just dyed it like this week. But welcome back to another video. I have an interesting topic. I feel like it's going to be a really long topic, so if you're here for that, strap in. It's a topic that myself and a Twitter user known as Harto Johan, I believe that's his username, we've been talking back and forth, just conversations, which is kind of refreshing because almost every conversation I have with a new person is in a podcast, and I've really had no time for that this week. I've had two job interviews, two radio shows with the BBC, and then my speech and panel at Bristol. It's been too insane for me to do anything else, which is why I've cancelled all podcasts for this week. Like, I'm not doing any podcasts. I just need to focus on me and my shit this week. And I'm also studying, so I'll have to do that later, which is kind of why I'm recording this video with my hair all wet. But what is the topic of this video? I really wanted to go into something positive because we've done a lot of negative shit. Like, we've talked a lot of negative stuff in the last month, and I want to do something slightly more positive that isn't about nihilism. And we might go into that a little bit today, but for the most part, it's fully positive. I want to talk about the best things after faith, like following apostasy. And this may resonate with more than just people who leave Islam, but that's my experience. That's where I came from. So I'm going to speak more to that, but having been on the panel yesterday, and my speech from that panel I'm still waiting for it to be approved by the chairman so that I can upload it. I have the audio clip, so unfortunately there's no visual, but there is an audio, that I'm working with. But having been on the panel yesterday, I was seated next to an ex-Jew and an ex-Jehovah's Witness. And we shared a lot of experiences, so I feel like this might resonate with some of you who may not have come from Islam or may not have been in any kind of religion, but want to understand exactly how we feel as people who were indoctrinated into a way of life that was very, very controlled. And I want to talk a little bit about that. I don't even really know how to start this. I feel like I could make this video 2 days long or more, because there's just so many things that are better about my life now than, like, it's so much better now that I would never have foreseen it being this good if I was still a Muslim. Because the way that apostates and even disbelievers, like kafirs, are portrayed within Muslim communities, within the Quran, within the Hadith, is just like darkness, emptiness, misery. Like, that's how people who don't follow a particular faith, in this case Islam, are portrayed. And if I was still a Muslim, I would never have envisioned my life being this good. Like, that's how good this life is. That if you took me from 5 years ago, even 6 years ago, and you put her in front of me now, we would not recognize each other. We would be doppelgangers. We wouldn't know. I would obviously recognize her, but she would definitely not recognize me because of the level of change that I've gone through, and also the level of happiness that I experience now. The first thing, and y'all know I was going to bring this up because I can't stop talking about it, me and my all-will fetish, but the first thing is free thought. The fact that I have the ability to just think about shit. Like, there were so many things when I was a Muslim that I was restricted from thinking about. Qadr, for example, was something that I was frequently told, don't question it. You know, Qadr is an issue that a lot of people find very tricky, and you just shouldn't question it. Just trust in Allah. And obviously, being a curious mind, being someone who wanted answers, wanted a complete religion, wanted to understand everything there was about this religion, I questioned Qadr frequently. Like, I would call up, Islamica, like they had an Islamica program on Islam Channel. I don't know if they still have it, but I used to call up on those shows and ask this guy, like, they had like different imams and sheikhs, and sometimes they would bring, well, I don't know if they were scholars, but definitely like religious people who could answer questions. Like, I would ring them up at each different one and try and get an answer, and none of the answers were satisfying, and none of the answers were like the same. And that's like a theme in Islam, is that generally you should have the same answer, but obviously knowing that Islam isn't practiced monolithically, that's, it's just unrealistic to expect. But it's what I expected as someone who, just wanted to understand this concept. And another thing that I was frequently told, because I really wanted to do philosophy when I was a young kid, like 14, 15. I really wanted to do philosophy, but my school would not, like, refused to host it. Like, they refused to have a philosophy class. And I was told, not by one, but several people, Muslims and like my local, sorry, I have like the hiccups. Muslims, my father, and, several knowledgeable people in our community, that if I studied philosophy, it would take my faith away from me. I mean, I've left my faith regardless. I still don't know very much about philosophy. I've only started on my journey of philosophy. But I was told that. I was told the same thing about psychology. Like, don't learn about the mind. Or everything you need to know is in Islam, and you learn that. And honestly, my parents didn't really have many expectations of me, because they mainly just wanted me to get married and have some kids and, do the family thing. So, for them, it was their priority that I just learn, mainly my dad, I just learned my religion. Like, nothing else really mattered, because my dad wouldn't allow me to go to university, but on top of that, they didn't expect much of me. Like, they didn't expect me to amount to much. So for me, it was kind of instilled that the one thing that I could perfect was Islam, and that's what I strove to do. And there were so many different things that I was forbidden. Like, I was forbidden from reading Harry Potter, for example. I still did, but I was forbidden from reading Harry Potter because it's got magic in it, and that's haram. I didn't consider that haram. I don't care what anyone says. It's not haram to read Harry Potter. I'm not a Muslim anymore, but I'm just saying, how dumb is your religion that, like, you should be able to read anything? Like, if you truly believe your religion is the truth, if you truly believe that what you believe is true, you should be able to read anything and everything. You should be able to read anything and everything, because your religion is true, right? So how little faith do you have in your faith that you have to prohibit certain things, from reading or learning? Like, fucking test your faith. Like, just do it. Like, maybe I'm just misguided. You can believe that. But if you cannot put your faith to the test, and you're scared that if you test your faith, it will be taken away, then how bad is your faith? Like, how shit is your faith? That's my logic anyway. Like, in my brain, nothing would take my faith away from me. The only thing that I would absolutely refuse to read was like horoscopes and things like that, because I knew that was haram. Like, your prayers won't be accepted for like 40 days if you did that. But so, like, there was a penalty for that. But as far as I'm aware, you can read about magic. And it on top of that, it's all fictional. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to sit here and figure out the fiqh of reading Harry Potter. But one of the biggest benefits, like one of the biggest things and freedoms that I have now, is to just think as much as I want about anything I want. Some of the best conversations that I've had in like the last year are just nonsense conversations, just speculation. One of my favorite conversations to have with anybody, because it's just a fun conversation, and I know it sounds depressing, so give it a second, is how do you think the world is going to end? Because I think everybody's aware of the fact that it's gonna end. But that's one of the most fun, like, I think to Muslims, they see it as like a very terrifying thing, or some of them rejoice and they're fucking crazy, but like for a lot of Muslims, it's like a terrifying thing, the world coming to an end, like the signs of the Day of Judgment and all of that stuff. But for me, now being outside of religion and essentially knowing that life is on the surface without human consciousness, it is completely meaningless. You know, it's just a fun thought experiment. You know, I like thought experiments, and I really felt like I wasn't allowed to do that as a Muslim. Like, the only real thought experiments that I could do were like talking about different madhabs and which one's rulings made no sense. Those arguments I used to have with my teacher were insane. Free thought is one of the best things. I think another thing that, while I don't think I was expressly forbidden from doing, but it was just implied, was the isolation. Like, my entire my friend group, all of my family, my community was all Muslim. Like, I grew up here in the UK. This is a multicultural city. I live in London. But I didn't really like spend time with people who weren't Muslims. And that's on purpose, because I was under the impression, and I was also told, that if you make non-Muslim friends, you're at risk of becoming like them or being influenced by them. And again, if your faith is true, you should be able to test it and come out on the other side knowing that it's true. It's a stupid argument to just be like, oh, don't hang out with that person, they're going to take your faith away. They don't have any jurisdiction on your mind. You think what you think. But I was very, very isolated in a sort of way from the outside communities. When I was really, really young, like when I was a little kid and before I'd been put into an Islamic school, before I had, my father had gone on this religion kick, the only like really close friends that I had were Jehovah's Witnesses, which I think is really ironic now, because it makes so much sense why I got on with them, because my life was as controlled as their lives. We were really close friends. I miss those girls. Like, I must have been like 6 to 10 years old when I had those friends, and I genuinely miss those friends. I wish I could like reconnect with them and find out where they are in their life. But after that, like after me leaving primary school, or like, I don't know what they call it in America, elementary, is that what you call it? After leaving elementary school and then moving on to secondary or middle school, I just had no like non-Muslim friends. All I had were Muslim friends, my Muslim community, my mosques really, and my family. And one of the best things about leaving Islam, while it's quite heart-wrenching, the fact that your family will completely cut you off, and to be honest, a lot of the people in my family were terrible people, so I don't miss most of them, but I do miss my siblings and some of my cousins, and other family members who were good to me. While that is extremely heart-wrenching, it is such a breath of fresh air to be able to make friends wherever I go. Like, it doesn't matter what they believe, doesn't matter what their skin color is, what language they speak, as long as we're able to communicate in some way. Doesn't even matter what country they're in. Like, it really doesn't. Or what city they're in. I have friends all over the UK. It's just so refreshing to be able to make friends who think differently, like I'm not constantly in an echo chamber, and I don't want to constantly be in an echo chamber. And on top of that, I still have Muslim friends that I interact with and hang out with, and it's just nice. It's just nice to be able to have a diverse collection of people that I enjoy spending time with, which is something that I could never have as a Muslim, because I was always encouraged, in the very least, you know, at worst I was forced to only spend time with Muslims, and on top of that, only girls. Like, I could only spend time with girls unless they were directly, like, unless the men that I spent time with were like my father or one of my brothers. Like, I couldn't even really hang out with my uncles after, like, I hit puberty. So it's also refreshing to learn about men and get their opinion on, you know, different things and how they think, and, you know, how their minds work. It's really interesting. And I think the curve for me, like, being able to talk to men after leaving was really, really weird. Like, it took me a really long time to be comfortable with that. I think the first man that I really, like, talked to in person after I left religion, or soon after I left my dad's house, actually, not after I left religion, but after I left my dad's house, was one of my community managers. His name is Michael Stewart. He ran the Yellow Pavilion in Wembley. I don't think it's called the Yellow Pavilion. I believe it's just called the Yellow now, and I don't think he manages it anymore. He doesn't manage it. I don't know why I'm saying I don't think. He doesn't manage it anymore. But he was one of the first people that I spoke to, and I was still wearing, like, a jilbab back then. And I was so intimidated. I was like, I don't know what he's gonna think of me. Like, I don't know who this man is. Like, is he gonna do something to me? Like, I didn't know, because I had no experience of that. And men were always painted in such a demonized way to me. Like, they're just sex crazed animals. They want to take advantage of you. Like, I've heard that argument for so much of my life that I just didn't know what to expect. And I've never been raped. I wouldn't say that I've been sexually assaulted. I've been harassed. But I think that's only happened, like, once. Over the last 2 years, which, you know, is bad, but it's not to the level where I used to think of how bad it was, you know. So it's been an interesting journey of complete, like, psychological and also physical isolation, in a sense, to then come out and really enjoy people. And I love people. Like, I hate people sometimes. Like, some people are, some of the things you do just bothers me. But on the whole, like, on a grand scale, in terms of, like, whether or not I want the world to fail or I want it to succeed, I definitely want it to succeed. It's why I have such a high standard for people. Like, that's why I expect so many things from people. That's why I'm, you know, always hoping for the best for people. My expectations are pretty low for everything else, because that's just my own personal defense mechanism for disappointment. But when it comes to people, I always hold them to a high standard, because I want to see them succeed and I want them to be better. And, you know, the more people that I meet, the more stories that I hear, and it really doesn't matter if I stay in contact with you. I appreciate almost every second of every single person that I've met. Almost every single person. Because I think that we all carry our own realities, and it's just interesting to, you know, allow someone else to invite you into their reality and let you experience the world that they've experienced their entire lives, you know. That's what I do frequently with these videos, you know. This is a window into my life. And when you sit and you talk to me, that is a window into your life, and I get to experience that. And that's something that I could never really do in an echo chamber, because everybody's just saying the same shit. Everybody's living the same life. It's essentially living in a hive mind. But when you come out of that and you realize how diverse people are in their thoughts, in their lifestyles, in the things that they do, in the things that they enjoy, in the things that they absolutely despise, in the conspiracy theories that they have, in the delusions that they hold, people are so interesting. And, like, I can't get over the fact that I didn't know that for like 20 years. Like, I didn't know how diverse people were, and it's something that I genuinely enjoy. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm, like, overdoing this, but it really, really is, like, it's an eye-opener. I'm gonna fucking cry. Like, this is stupid. The next thing I want to talk about is ownership. Not ownership of material things, as many people might think, because she left Islam to be a slut or whatever the fuck. I don't know. I hear a lot of things, honestly. But I think one of the biggest benefits I've had from leaving religion is that I can take ownership of every second of my life. I do not need to attribute any second of my life to something divine, to something demonic, to something angelic. Every single moment in my life is mine, and every single moment of my life is something I can learn from. And that to me was just the biggest, like, freedom. And it kind of ties back into free thought a little bit, but like, even the bad shit that's happened to me, even like, I've been through a lot of bad shit, and it's affected me, and it's going to continue affecting me for a while. My hair is like doing whatever it was. Anyways, it's going to continue affecting me for a long time. But I can take ownership of that. I can say to myself, this was a moment that was mine. It was mine, and I went through it, and I've learned something from it. It wasn't divine. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't a test. Nobody made that happen. It just happened. And I experienced that. I don't really know how to explain this besides saying that I really enjoy living for the thrill of living. I made a tweet a few days ago where this girl had posted like crashing waves next to a ship, like a stormy wave. And the caption that she put was, "How can you deny the existence of God?" Da, 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 da. I had quote tweeted it, and I had said, if this is what the end of the world looked like it was just waves coming down, which I think is the most plausible. We can have a discussion about that in another video, but I think is the most plausible way that the world will end is with water. That's just me, though. I'm obsessed with the ocean. Don't get me started. But if it was the end of the world and the waves were like gonna engulf us, I would want to feel that experience. Like, a lot of people, I've had this discussion with a lot of people, like, would you end your life or would you wait for the end of the world? I would wait for the end of the world, because I want to experience that thrill of knowing that it's the end of the world. Is that insane? Maybe that's insane. I don't know. But I enjoy even the worst moments a little bit, because it's the thrill of living. It really, like, our pain, our suffering, our everything, our sadness, our happiness, our enjoyment, our ecstasy, our excitement, our anger, our disgust, our everything. Every single moment of your life is a second that you can claim as yours. And I love that. Like, I love that. I live for that. And it's one of the reasons why I feel like that you never have to be worried about me, because I don't think I'll ever get to a point, unless, I guess, if I was terminally ill. No, even then I wouldn't, because I want that full 6 months or whatever the fuck. But I don't think I'll ever get to a point where I want to end my own life, which is why you never have to worry about me in terms of that. Because I genuinely, even if a moment is bad, like, I've been depressed for 3 months now, and I know it doesn't come across that way. And it's because I get a small sense of, like, this is finite, first of all. And second of all, this is going to be a funny story at some point. Like, this is the thrill of living. Like, I can take any experience out of my life and make it mine. It is mine to begin with, and then I can make it mine. Every experience that I go through, like, I presented a speech yesterday, and I was really nervous about that. It was something that 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I could never envision myself doing, because I was such a nervous fucking wreck. Like, I hated speaking in front of people. I hated presenting in front of my class, And I live for the thrill of that. Like, I'm still riding off the fumes of that moment. And it's something that I'll be riding off for a while. But I thought if it completely tanked, like I completely bombed, it would still be a funny story in like a week. Or even today, it would be a funny story. I'd be telling that story today, you know? I enjoy living for the thrill of living. And maybe that's crazy. I don't know. But it's genuine. Like, I genuinely feel that way. I think the next thing, this video is going to be a long one. There was also like some testimonials and some questions I wanted to get into, but maybe I'll make that a part 2. The next thing I want to go into is the experience of new feelings. And I've talked about this a little bit before. Like, I don't think I truly experienced love until I left my family and I left Islam, because when I felt it, I didn't recognize it. And it took me a while to understand what it was and also come to terms with it, because I was really freaked out by it. Confusion is often the catalyst for me just becoming a crying mess. Like, I was so confused the first time I felt like someone loved me. Because I always felt like members of my family didn't. Like, I always felt like my mother didn't. I always felt like my father really didn't. And for them, they probably weren't. They also were not familiar with it, because, you know, my parents had an arranged marriage. Their parents had an arranged marriage, and it's just the cycle. So that was one of the emotions that I think that I've truly felt after I left. And I'm also like thinking about emotions and how they putting a spin on them. Like, feeling greed for the first time was a weird feeling. Like, feeling like because I've never really been a greedy person, because I have 5 siblings. I'm the oldest. I learned to just like give up my shit pretty easily. Because and nothing is like precious to me unless it has truly sentimental value, like, you know, like teddies and like postcards and stuff, which are more or less, you know, they're priceless to me, but they're not worth much, like, in terms of value. But I think that I don't even know, like, I feel like I'm talking about such abstract things. I think happiness was something that I didn't experience until I left Islam as well. Like, I understood peace, but I didn't understand like happiness, like true enjoyment. I don't remember the first time that I felt that, but certainly the most recent time where I felt so ecstatically happy was in Amsterdam, you know, surrounded by all my peers, holding the respect of all of them, but also holding them in their worst moments and their funniest moments. You know, just seeing everyone having a good time, taking funny pictures. There's a picture, for example, it's up on my Instagram, where there's a picture that looks like I've got my head shoved up Mariam Namazi's ass. Like, it's the funniest. I could not stop laughing at that picture. And I think I captioned it a bunch of things on Twitter and on Instagram, because I just could not stop. It was one of the most breathtaking experiences, something that I'm going to hold on to forever. But it's one of the most recent, like, ecstatic, happy emotions that I've had. And I don't remember ever being that happy while being a Muslim. Like, I remember feeling a sense of peace and calm, but I would throw that in a garbage fire for complete ecstatic, like, happiness. Just, I don't know how to explain. It's such an abstract thing that I don't know how to explain it. I think the last thing that I'm going to talk about, and I'll do a part 2 where I just do questions, and testimonials, and I might do it later because I have to like be somewhere in a little bit. Sorry. I never have enough time for anything. But the last thing that I want to touch on before I go away is the reconciliation of evil. And I spoke a little bit about it earlier. I know that I'm flawed and I'm gonna make mistakes, and nothing is truly evil. That sounds fucking shady, doesn't it? My point is that I know I'm gonna make mistakes because I'm human, and I don't need to feel guilty for it unless I learn from it. And that's what I try to do with everything. And also I can reconcile that if something happens to me, it's not because of an evil force. It's just because everything is chaotic and shit happens, and sometimes you just have to get over it. You have to learn from it and get over it. You know, obviously there are consequences to our actions, and we have to take ownership of that. We have to take ownership of that because that's the only way that we can be better. But don't ever let people tell you that something bad happened to you because you're inadequate in some way, because it's fucking bullshit. So that's my video. I'm gonna do a part 2. Otherwise this is gonna be way too long. It's already too long. It's 30 minutes, like over 30 minutes. But thank you for joining me. I hope you found this in any way insightful. I know I'm like super poetic and I'm always sitting here with my fucking beret. Like, it's the artist just screams out of me anytime I need to say something. I can't just be a normal human being and say A, B, C, D. No, it has to be A, B, C. Like, I'm so annoying. I'm so obnoxious. I'm so sorry. But thank you for joining me. I hope you've had a good time on this artistic journey of why my life is better now. And, you know, I hope you join me in the next one. I'll do the Q&A a bit later. Yeah, but if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing. You know, leave me a comment down below if you want to, if you would like to support me in a more monetary way, and I would really appreciate it because, while I think I aced one of my interviews this week, I would really appreciate the monetary support. I have a Patreon and PayPal. All the links are in the description below. I love you guys. Thank you for your love and support this week and all the weeks previous and all the weeks to come. I really, really appreciate it. You guys, literally, like, you're the best. I couldn't ask for a better fan base sometimes. So yeah, I will see you soon, and I'm so sorry my hair is so fucking wet. So yeah, goodbye.